Good morning and welcome to the first ever morning time episode of Virtual Courtside with Dirk and Harris. I'm Harris, that's Dirk. Happy day 2 of 3v3 playoffs, Dirk.
I hope today's going to be a lot better than yesterday. Yesterday was interesting. It looked like a bunch of guys who haven't played on stage.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. That was pretty rusty. It looked more like a preseason day than it did a first day of playoffs.
It literally was day 1 of this season reincarnated, but back in person.
Yes.
It's the exact same vibe. Shooting struggles. People look like they're still trying to figure some things out because the shooting wasn't all there. So it was wacky.
I think yesterday required I want to give a special shout out to our players who played on stage yesterday, because I think yesterday required a really, really distinct level of mental fortitude to fight through. Everybody basically turned into Cavs Legion GC yesterday, and to have to go through that mental just disaster fest must have been hard, but we had a lot of teams grinding out and get some wins.
Can you imagine if the Cavs would have been on stage?
No,
what if they were shooting lights out?
No, keep that dark magic away from me. No, I don't want to even think about that. Okay, we're going to go through the games. We'll talk about the three-point shooting as we go, and then we will preview the games that we have coming up today. So we'll start with our first matchup of the night, and it was Nets GC taking on Grizz Gaming. They were on the B stage, and I mentioned to you after this series was done, Dirk, that my new rule for 3v3, if we have 3v3 going forward, is that once a team shows you who they are, that's who they are. Mm-hmm. And with all due respect to Grizz Gaming, we know who they are. They are a team that are really, really good from point 0 to point like 17, but from 18 onwards, they just don't have that killer instinct on either side of the ball, whether it's Vanny making a couple bad decisions, whether it's their defense just not getting timely stops. They have been the same team all year, and the Nets took advantage of that. They stole at least 2 games away from the Grizz, and they won the series 3-1.
Which is what was crazy, too, is because if there was a winnable series in round 1 to keep your hopes alive in the upper bracket, it was against the Nets, because the Nets had looked atrocious going into this. They were probably one of the teams that we had hyped up. They said that they were going to be contenders this year with Green Streets and Stees. While they did look good at the beginning, they had a collapse that it looked like they weren't going to be able to bounce back from. So a lot of eyes that were going into them. I'm happy that the Nets are able to close it out because it kind of solidified for us. Okay, like you're getting back on stage. It's kind of the real deal right now. You made quick work of Grizz Gaming in this series. But yeah, man, I mean, we didn't get to watch it too much. We're jumping in here and there. But when we did watch is when we were like, oh shit, it's the same stuff that had been haunting them the entire season. Close games, maybe they would have been up. They blow some leads. They can't get the official closeout. I think a lot of the pressure too, right? When you start to see them have success in those situations, like what Vandy, I think, dropped 18 points in the one game that they did end up winning. It's tough to do that. I know Icy had a miracle game as well. They scored 18 points and lost. Like that you can't have that happen. Like if your lockdown's giving you that much offense, that should almost be a guaranteed win for you at that stage. So it was tough. I mean, it'll be even tougher for them going through in the lower side of things as well. I don't even really know how to feel. I think really, honestly, I think it's going to be impacted by who's playing on the upper stage, who's down in the main stage, and how maybe that causes some differences.
As the late and great Arizona Cardinals head coach Darryl Green once said, "They are who we thought they were." Except this time, they didn't get let off the hook. Mm-hmm. They were taken down. Nets GC gets the win, and their reward is an on-stage matchup with Lakers Gaming. So we'll talk about that series in a bit. Our first series on the main stage was T-Wolves Gaming, Bucks Gaming. This was probably the best series that we had of the night. And it's funny because we went into the night, and even on the podcast, I said that I thought Bucks Gaming was the worst possible first-round matchup for T-Wolves Gaming because, just a really, really impossible matchup. I thought at least going in for T-Wolves, you're going up against a hot roster. I think Dimes is back. This is a really good veteran team, knows how to win on stage. And the interesting part is, Dirk, is that it ended up being the other way around. T-Wolves Gaming was actually the worst possible first-round matchup for Bucks Gaming because you could argue that T-Wolves Gaming looked the best of any team on stage yesterday. Bucks Gaming looked the second-best team on stage yesterday. Even after they lost the first round, they were able to win round 2 against Pistons GT in the lower bracket. I thought the Bucks actually played really well in this series. But, man, this T-Wolves team is legit good. Not to mention, they were probably the only team on stage that could legitimately shoot from anywhere on the court. They could shoot from the corners. Tutak was hitting his classic top-of-the-key threes. I thought Bear was doing a great job hitting shots, also getting to the rim. It was a really it was basically like we're in the Switch Open again. I think T-Wolves Gaming just know how to win with this roster, and it was just a very nice executed win.
Yeah, it was. The only concerning part was the very first game with Tutok where he just looked awful, and I was like, okay, this is exactly how he was playing when the T-Wolves were really struggling. But it's all about how you bounce back, and it's your first series on stage, so you do have to factor that in. Being a rookie, playing the hardest position that's out there on the floor. So once they started getting the flow of like the game 2, game 3, game 4, I was like, okay, like this is exactly what made them so special. I think something that stood out to me more yesterday than maybe it did remotely. Bear had the ball in his hands a lot more yesterday than he ever had remote.
Yes.
I think, I'm not sure if that was the initial game plan, but I know that typically when we were remote and the T-Wolves would get in like crunch time scenarios, it's always Bear ISO left wing every single time. They were giving him the ball a lot to work out, even in the early portions of the game.
That was the huge adjustment that we talked about on air after I think it was the last 2 games of the series where what ended up happening is that Bucks Gaming was starting to go. They went full court press on Tutok. Yeah. Every single time he was getting the ball, they were pressing him early, trying to get their half court offense to start with 12, 13 seconds instead of more like 18 or 19. So what ended up happening is that Bear was breaking the press. They would give him the ball in that left lane, and he would just beat Johnny Red to the half court line, either go right to the rim for a bucket, or he would stop on that left wing, make a couple moves, get it back to Tutok on a catch and shoot. It was a live coaching adjustment. I think it was Jay Money's idea because you guys were obviously looking at a different screen. I was watching Jay Money for an entire game. He was like an NFL coach out there. He had a full playlist on a piece of paper. Yeah. He was covering his mic, calling out plays. He was aggressively
That's always
coaching.
Been the team, even when he was a player. That man always was just like constantly covering
his mic. He was
mic.
aggressively coaching 3v3. And I was shocked because it was working. Like, he was making defensive call-outs. He was calling plays. They would make the right play. It would work. They would score. It was very impressive. And I'm interested to see what we get from them today because they have dribble gods today. Probably a winnable series. We're going to have to give them some respect because we horribly disrespected dribble gods when we did our first podcast. But very impressed by T-Wolves gaming. That was probably they looked exactly like they did in the Switch Open, but almost better. And that makes me think that they're legit good and we might see a real run this week.
Yeah, I think too, like maybe with them kind of knowing that there was some adjustment with the shooting on stage 2, that they were trying to get Tutok more catch and shoot opportunities off the Bear playmaking.
Yeah,
so
great call.
I think it was an interesting switch up. It's something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. Like, don't get me wrong, like Bear has had a lot of game winning scenarios where a game on the line he just puts it away with him with the ball. But it was cool to see how aggressive that he was. But I think that's one of the good parts that I've always said this: when you can play point guard, you can play any position. Yeah, I firmly believe that. Maybe the lockdown's a little tougher because actually playing one-on-one defense, a lot of these new generation point guards are not used to doing. Yeah, the OGs like Bear and all these other guys who've been playing for so long, that's how they were brought up in the game. It was point guard guarding point guard. It was never locked down on the guard. So I really like what I saw from the T-Wolves yesterday. They look like one of the strongest team, the best team yesterday definitely that we ended up seeing was the T-Wolves. But of course we didn't have Lakers or Magic play, so we don't really know where to gauge it.
They give me shades of Pistons GT from last year in 2 ways. One, they have all 3 of their guys can finish games with big shots. Tutok can hit big shots. Iggy Mo has been money out of the corner for like a month and a half now. And like you mentioned, Bear can finish off a game at any time he wants to if they're given that opportunity. So, one, that's how they remind me of that. 2 is I need to press this button a little bit more, is how good Iggy Mo has been on the defensive side of the ball for this team. That is what has truly transformed them. He is getting them stops, and more importantly, he is getting them rebounds all the time. He is one of the better defensive rebounding power forwards we've had for the second half of the season. He out-rebounded Dimes for that entire series. That is not easy to do. This is a man playing his first stage game against arguably the best center maybe in the world right now, and he was out-rebounding him for a whole series on stage. Shout out Iggy Mo, man. I don't know what happened when he got benched. I don't know what kind of motivation that put him through. He's been a man possessed since he's come back into the lineup. So, hey, all's well that ends well, right? All right, on to the next one. Oh, that was a really loud clap. I'm sorry. Pistons GT, Dribble Gods, we have to apologize to Kenny Zeus. We disrespected them so hard, and they won.
It's such a weird series.
We disrespected them, bro. The Pistons did not take them seriously for 4 games of that series, and then all of a sudden, it's game 5. They have a chance to win. I think it was Ant misses a wide open 3. They get the ball on the other end. Ant's trying to defend them, and Kenny Zeus puts a layup in over his head.
Yeah, he played the perfect defense, but I think it was the slithery animation that triggers what Kenny Zeus got, made it to where it's just irrelevant, the defense for it. It was weird because this should have been again, people might look at it if they listen like, man, these guys hate dribble gods. We don't. They just have not shown us anything
That was
against
their
2K
first
League
win
team.
against a 2K League team all season.
They have been double first rounded in every single tournament that we've had so far. So the expectation against going up against a team of Pistons GT who, like they've had such a weird season. Like some points they look really good, other points like they're like, damn, how is this team even in playoff contention? Honestly, at times is how scary some things got. But yeah, this series should have been one that they should have closed out. It's the same situation that they were in when they played Dot Squad. They were on the side stage. Exact same mirror situation ended up happening. I'm pretty sure they lost Game 5 to Dot Squad too when they were up on that stage. And I'm pretty sure it was a close game as well, the way that they ended up losing. But yeah, no, I mean, when we jumped in, it was funny because when we jumped in, the Kenny's versus performers were not good when we saw the box score. But then the other games, we need to go back and if there's any video footage of that, look at it. Because he averaged 10 points per game, which is fucking really, really good at the point guard position, especially against a team like that. But, you know, it's the Pistons should have closed out. They weren't able to. When it gets to playoffs, no matter who they're playing, they try. That's the weirdest part about this. They try. Yeah. It doesn't matter that they're up on the side stage. They learned that lesson from last year. It's not like they're going to go in there like pussyfooting around because it's a community team on that stage. That is one of the wackier things I think happened yesterday. And even the end result of when they got double first rounded made it even more crazy. But for Dribble Gods, we get to, I think, no, I don't think they're going to be on the main stage today. They're going to be on the side stage, so we don't really get to dive in on the Dribble Gods matchup. But yeah, give the flowers where it's due. They haven't won an entire series the entire year, but what better way to win a fucking series in the biggest prize pool tournament?
No better time than the present. I mentioned this during the Grizz Gaming analysis. I said it. Once a team shows you who they are, that is who they are. And Pistons GT showed us all year who they were. Ant has not been able to shoot the same way this year that he did last year, and their defensive chemistry between Jomar and Connor. We noted this on broadcast so many times this year where we're like, something's not right. Like, they're just not vibing defensively. Yeah. They're not getting big stops. They're not getting transition buckets. They're not getting those huge leads that we saw Pistons GT used to get out to during some of these games. And they would just have to grind these games so many times. We'd be watching the Pistons. It would be 18-18, 18-17, 19-18, like all these crazy close games. And they would just leave themselves the absolute smallest of margins in order to win. And they just couldn't get over them. We'll do a full in memoriam of Pistons GT once we go through all the games. But this series especially was basically everything we'd seen out of Detroit this year.
It's so weird too, because like I remember I go back to you. Well, so I played with Ant, Connor, Jomar, like when he got on the team.
Save the full season analysis for when we get to the end. We'll get to them once we do the Buck series. All right, Heat Check Gaming 76ers GC. This was a great series.
Yeah.
Both these teams scrapping it out. This is probably our most lively series on stage as well. I think the Sixers came in with a really, really good game plan. They're just not good enough. They just weren't. They just were simply not good enough to beat the Heat, and that's kind of been the Sixers' problem all year. Is that offensively they will go through these insane dry stretches where all of a sudden they'll miss, like they just won't score for 4 or 5 straight possessions in one game. But the Heat weren't punishing them. That was kind of the part that was annoying to me. The games would be stuck at like 15-9 for like 5 minutes because neither team could score. I think this Heat team is who they are. I think they are an inefficient three-point shooting team who is getting a god-tier season from Dietrich. And if Kai even plays slightly better than his season averages, they win games easily. But the problem is that between him and Matty, the shooting just hasn't been there.
Matty yesterday
It's just not there. I don't know what has happened to Kai and Matty this year. They just cannot shoot efficiently from three.
The thing, like, focusing now specifically in person, Matty's shooting performance, I would love to know what his final numbers were because he could not hit a single jump shot. Once Kai found his rhythm, you just kind of saw what you see from him every single time, remote or in person, that he just does not lose the shooting touch, which I think it was the Game 5 closeout where he made like 3 threes like right off the rip.
He's got amazing mentality for the stage, man. He really does.
And I think it's the most lively that we've actually ever seen him on stage, and you know, rightfully so. I think his clip got it's over 1 million views right now of the one when they ended up closing out the series on IG.
Got that big? Wow.
They got the NBA collab post with Kai. Okay. So then you get to go through the comments and see what everyone comments on the 2K League stuff.
I mean, if we're trying to talk, you know, you and I are big into soccer. A big thing in soccer is mental profiling a player. Like understanding their personality, understanding their mentality, knowing like how they're going to perform from a mental aspect in really big games. And I think if you look at the mental profile of a guy like Kai, he is so built for these kind of onstage moments where it doesn't matter if he misses 5-6 threes in a row. That man is going to keep shooting no matter what. He's all gas, no breaks all the time. And that's why we love him. We know that he's always going to at least try to put on a show. He's never going to give up. And I think that's why they won this series. I think they won this series almost purely out of Kai's unbelievable and unstoppable will to win. He just would not give up on this series. The Sixers went up 2-1. They were jawing at him. They were going at him. Why you suck? Blah, blah, blah. DT's giving him the business. And he just would not quit. He did not give up. He stuck with the series. He stuck with the game plan. I think this might be their most impressive win of the season. However, they now have Magic Gaming, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence. But I don't know. I was very impressed by the Heat. That was a well-deserved win for them.
Because what the most... I know some teams match up more than others during the season, but I think the last matchup was that in-person one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much we really factor that in, because that was when Magic Gaming was starting to get a little bit better, too. I know that the group play stages were kind of hit or miss at times.
Yep.
Like, they're definitely not as good as they were when they get to the bracket play. But I'll be really interested to see how this matchup with them ends up playing out between the Magic and them. Like, what did they learn from playing against the inside?
Yeah, and also for the Sixers, I hate to keep bringing this up because he's literally only one of my favorite players in the league. He's one of my favorite people in the league. He's a really cool dude. The decline of Dre needs to be studied by generations. I don't know what happened. He went from being one of the best killer point guards that we have. Like, he wanted to destroy people when he got on that stage, when he got into this mode. There's just been something up with him this year where I don't know if his confidence is shaken. I don't know if he's in his own head, but we talk about the will to win that Kai has. I feel like Dre has almost lost it a little bit. Like he's just lost that unflappable confidence that made him so good as a rookie and as a sophomore. It's I don't know what happened. What happened to Dre?
It's strange because
I'm not crazy, right? Like
no, because like
weird.
when I think of Dre, I think of the guy that when the game first dropped was posting like highlight reels of him dribbling around and like having all the combinations down, kind of like how like BP would always do when he was with Invasion. Yeah. So he always had his Pro-Am logo. He was changing the colorway of his Pro-Am logo like every other month, like that they would end up playing. And what made him so scary and so annoying, because right when I think Dre was starting to rise up and like getting serious about the league was right when I was competing for the league too.
Yeah.
And anytime you fucking played Invasion, you had to face Dre and you had to face DJ at the center position.
And they kick your ass.
One, Dre would fucking dance around to where he was so good that he would fuck up so many locks to where you would have to double team up high and basically do that for the entirety of the game, which of course would open things up for DJ. He doesn't have that same sense of dribbling, but now when you look at it, right, the dribble god point guards that we've had in the league, they don't really move like how they did before. Radiant's one of those guys. Yeah. Radiant does not dribble like how Radiant did years ago. Yeah. Dre does not dribble how Dre did years ago. So these, I want to say that the more that they've adjusted to the league, it's hindered their dribbling ability. Interesting. But it's adapted their playmaking ability to where they've become an all-around guard. Because how many guards do we ever talk about?
Dre is definitely a better playmaker now than when he was
like
a rookie.
1,000,000%.
That's a good call out. Yeah.
And I think that's what the adjustment is that if you want to be a top guard in the NBA 2K League at the point guard position, not the shooting guard, if you're at the point guard position, you have to be able to do everything. Yeah. How many guys have we seen come in at the point guard? Kai's a perfect example of it. Kai at point guard, I don't like it. Me neither. Right? But it's because he has not been able to change his game. Granted, it's only been it's his second year now. So granted, it's a second year. If you really wanted to commit to it and make the adjustment, you could, and you could end up transitioning. You just don't really have all that time to be able to do just that. Same thing with BP in the league. I think BP now with him, if he were to get back into the league, I think we see a lot different of a BP. Yeah. But BP would be so interesting if he got back into the league. Because he still dribbles like fucking crazy. Yeah. But now he's added a little bit more playmaking into his game. So that's where like you would see the ultimate combination of that. But I genuinely think that's what it is. There's no other explanation. No. Like because as games go by, of course, dribbling changes, new animations. Everyone gets hip to it. Everybody copycats what's exactly is going on. Yeah. So I think that's one of the more interesting parts. But then again, like how many guys have we really seen this year who are absolute fucking dribble gods playing the mode? Maybe like a handful of guys?
I think it's like what you said. I feel like guys nowadays in the league use their dribbling to set up proper passing angles
Yeah.
more so than they do to set up shots. Now, of course, you're still going to have those guys. I think Gallo's been able to shoot off the dribble great. Tutok has been great this year off the dribble. So has Vandy. But I think you're right. I think most point guards have kind of changed the way that they approach dribbling to where it's no longer you're trying to like embarrass your opponent, get around them, and score. You're almost trying to do it as a setup for a play.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to hit with this guy. It's going to draw on another defender, and I'm going to kick it to that guy in the corner. Or I'm going to mess with the screener here. The guy's going to pull up, and, my center is going to slip. I'm going to go behind the back to the right and get that angle to him down the rim. And I think that strategy works. The problem is that when you go up against a team like Heat Check Gaming, whose guard can blow up on you in 4 possessions for 4 straight threes, and all of a sudden you're down 12-5, that dribbling into playmaking, it looks cute.
For threes, you don't need dribbling into playmaking.
Yeah.
For threes, you need to just fucking dribble with the intention of scoring every single time.
And that's
especially I think that's why the Heat are so good. Kai can just play like a fucking crackhead dribbling the ball and shooting.
It's an
and guess what?
unflappable confidence.
If he gets double teamed up top,
he doesn't
it's as
care.
simple. It's an X pass. Because no one's dropping that hard off a fucking corner to go stop it inside. They're going to get up to 2. So you just press an X looking down towards the paint. But again, that's why when you play against the Heat, it's a draining series anytime that you have to play those guys.
One last thing on the series. Special shout out to not only Jeff, but also the players. They came into this series with 3 different defensive game plans. Game 1, they were playing drop coverage, which didn't work. And I understand why they tried it. Kai and Maddie have not been shooting the ball well from 3. They basically were telling them, hey, we're going to play drop. We're going to have 2 guys boxing out Dietrich. We're going to get these rebounds, and we're going to kick them out in transition. It didn't really work. Kai went crazy from 3. Game 2, they go through an adjustment. They start playing up high. The guys come. What they ended up doing is that the guy that was defending in the corner, he was the one actually coming off and trying to box out Dietrich. The only problem is that was leaving Maddie open for 3. The Sixers were getting lucky that he couldn't make any shots. So the series went on a little bit longer than they thought. And then the third defensive game plan is that they started playing like a little bit of zone defense almost. It was weird. It kind of worked. It kind of didn't, but I think it just goes to show that this Sixers team, for me, I think they're going to be outstanding in 5s. They are so well drilled. They are so well organized defensively. Gradient's going to come in. Jaden made huge strides defensively last year. I think the Sixers are going to be an absolute, just so annoying to play in 5s this year. I was really impressed with their gameplay, or their game plan coming in. All right, next series, Genji versus Knicks. The Knicks looked like they had them. They looked like they had him. They had the perfect game plan. Stick was bothering the hell out of Gallo. Jolo was missing wide open threes. They completely took Lawrich out of the game offensively. They were just sticking Radiant on him. You are not getting any open threes. They never dropped off of Lawrich, which is smart. And then they stopped hitting shots. Radiant went ice cold. Feast went ice cold. Stick could not get those little spin moves he loves around the rim. Genji storms back. They hit every single shot for 3 straight games, and then they beat the Knicks. I mean, we blinked, and it was 3-2 Genji.
It's so crazy because
I don't even think they hit double digits in 2 of those games down the stretch. It was weird.
The thing is with the Knicks, we always bring up the term in Knicks fashion, and over the years of the league, it's crazy how a foundation of just an organization, you can say that and it carries over as much even when the players are swapping out constantly. This is a team notorious, other than take season 1 out of the picture. This is a team that is notorious for getting into winning positions where they should be able to go forward and advance, and always just having the fucking collapse of the century. And it's happening now year by year. They were up 2-0. There is no reason they should have got reverse swept.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they should have got swept to close out their entire fucking campaign at 3v3. That is what was so strange about this team going into this, because we were peeking in at that Knicks game and we're like, oh my goodness, it's 2-0. This could be one of the crazier upsets that we've seen. Everything's moving like a well-oiled machine. But Genji have been the 3rd best for a reason. And I think you kind of get lost in it when you see them down 2-0 and you see a team that is in control of the series, but you have to remember that it is one of the best teams. So that's the craziest part about it. I'm kind of speechless when it comes down to what happened with the Knicks.
Yeah.
Because I think if the Knicks played Radiant, Whatstick, and Feast for the entirety of the year, I think that this is a team that was comfortably in the playoffs.
I think so too.
I genuinely think that would have been the case.
And I don't want to blame Malik, by the way. It's just some guards just couldn't shoot this year.
It's a different style that Radiant played, and you completely saw it, right? So where we were just talking about with Kai, where his mindset is, I just want to go score, score, score. Malik had that, but he doesn't have the same dribbling bag of a Kai, so I don't think it opened things up. Radiant, when it came in, it was refreshing to see because Radiant had that good mixture of like, I'm going to kill my opponent, I'm going to be able to get everybody else involved. And did a good job of shifting up that dynamic. So I think that it would have looked a lot different. Just think that the change came too late. It was good enough to get you into the steal. You weren't good enough to win it. And then coming out here again, like it's tough to even talk about this because they should have beat Gen G.
Yeah,
man, the way everything ended up going. So it was strange. I mean, good fight for them at least coming out, but the way that they went out, absolutely just sad.
We'll talk about their Rim Runner series here in a bit. Let's do a quick on Celtics Rim Runners. I don't have a lot to say on this. This Celtics team they're so boring. They're so good. They're so good, but they're so boring. I don't want to talk about them because, like, I want them to do something exciting. Like, again, my expectations for this team is incredibly unfair. You guys know why. I'm a huge Celtics fan. All I've ever wanted since I've come into this league is for Celtics crossover to be good. And they just get so close, and then they're just too boring, or they just like aren't good enough. I like this team a lot. A very easy win for them over Rim Runners. The Rim Runners did not look ready for the stage, understandably so. Leche looked great. Krizzy and Tezo still can't shoot. It's been 4 years in the league, still can't shoot. Amazing defender, can't shoot at all. Krizzy, good two-way player. It was easily the most boring series we had of the day. It was the easiest series I think any team had. They just won. Now they're on to the next round. I have no other analysis.
It's almost like I feel like calling a team boring that is that good in three is almost a compliment because
it is. It's the biggest compliment I can give.
They make it just like look so easy that there's nothing flashy about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like when you're watching some of these other top teams, we're getting fucking hyped up, goes unguardable, just absolutely cooked. Their one is just like Leche dribbling the ball.
Leche, 24'3", top of the key.
Oh, that's now 4 in a row. 2 of them catch and shoot shots off of this.
Krizzy, backdoor cut 2. Like they are so well drilled and so well organized that it is boring to watch them play. But I will say that lack of tenacity, that lack of juice, as I keep saying, I think it will hurt them in the biggest games.
Yeah.
And we will see them today against Gen G and probably the biggest game of the Celtics season so far. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the series other than easy, nice win for the Celtics. We'll see them against Gen G. That'll tell us more.
Celtics and Gen G have played each other in one of the brackets,
I think they played each other in the Switch.
Yeah.
And obviously Gen G won.
Yeah.
All right, Bucks Gaming, Pistons GT. Into the lower bracket. I think I just said that. I don't know. Lower bracket, Bucks Gaming, Pistons GT. The Pistons they are who we thought they were. And Bucks Gaming did not let them off the hook. That was the Bucks Gaming that I thought we were going to see. They were decisive. Johnny was great. Dawsix made some big-time stops on Ant. I thought Dimes was excellent against Connor. They had a real war down low. This Bucks Gaming team, man, they will go up against the loser of Magic Gaming and Heat Check Gaming. Man, if the Heat lose and all of a sudden they have to go play Johnny Red, Dimes, and Dawsix, like that's just brutal. I think this team is going to be really terrifying in this lower bracket. If you look at the teams now, it's Grizz Gaming, Bucks Gaming, the Sixers, and the Rim Runners. I think Bucks Gaming are easily the best team in the lower bracket remaining. They are going to make it really make life tough. But for Pistons GT, let's do the official in memoriam now. We don't need to go through all the games and then come back and do this. The official in memoriam for the Pistons is really this. They just didn't have the magic. They just did not have the aura of we are going to dominate you all year long. And I think it came down to two final things. One, Ant's confidence this year was way off. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the shooting just took him away. I don't think he was nearly as engaged defensively as he's been in years past. He put out a tweet after kind of explaining, like, I just haven't really been feeling it this year. It's been really gray and dull in Detroit. Yeah, he put out a tweet. You can go check his Twitter account. He just did not have a good season from a motivation standpoint. And I think it really carried over to his gameplay. He just didn't have the same electric gameplay that he usually does. And then the second thing that really sank their season is the defense, man. I think, we saw Jomar.
Did he delete it?
He might have deleted it. But I showed it to JT last night, and he might have deleted it. But yeah, he put out a tweet basically saying that like he just didn't have a great year, and he's kind of excited that the 3 season is over. Honestly, man, look, we saw Jomar with Pacers Gaming have outstanding stretches, but also have some really bad stretches. Last year with Blazer 5, we saw him have some really great stretches with him and Chaos. We also saw that Blazers team have some really bad stretches. And I think we kind of saw it this year that the gap between him and Bag, I think because of the name Jomar and how acclaimed he is as a player and how great of a career he's had, I think we overstated how big of a loss Bag Motion was.
Yeah.
Bag Motion last year was the best lockdown in 3v3. And that gap between that and Jomar, who I think was probably slightly above average, but that gap between best in the league and slightly above average, it defined their season. They never got the defense off the ground. They never were able to get out to big leads. They never really grew that aura of there's nothing you can do. We're going to beat you. And that's the season. Like, then that's it. All it took was a little shake of the confidence of the point guard and a little bit of delineation between the lockdowns year over year. And that's it. Double first rounded.
Yeah, so going back to Pro-Am when Jomar first got traded, that was when I was playing here and there with Tunnel Vision. And I remember playing in 5s, and our defense wasn't very good in Pro-Am. And it was a lot of miscommunications with Connor and Jomar mostly because they were obviously in the pick and roll. I was there too, and I fucking suck with this new rotations that everyone does. So like, I'm still not in tune with like a lot of it. Yeah, like back when I played, we weren't rotating like that.
Back in my day, we didn't switch shit.
Yeah, we were just running
point guard versus center.
We were doing triangle every single time, and that was
yes,
it.
Triangle.
And so when they're mixing all this stuff, it's like whatever. So I was like, okay, but like let's put somebody else in the mix. And so they started playing with Doug's. And obviously Doug's has been competing. He knows all the rotations, so you think it'll be fluid. I went and coached them when they're out at UPA when I was out there for the combine. And same things. A lot of defensive lapses and a lot of miscommunication. So I was like, it's just growing pains. It'll be different when we get into the league. It seemed like it got the same or even worse at times, which is very concerning because the way that Pistons GT and kind of the meta that they formed when 3v3 first started with, getting the lockdowns involved in a lot of the plays and the way that they play this free-flowing offense and free-flowing defense is that I feel like Jomar was going in trying to do Bag Motion's role and doing all the things Bag Motion did, but couldn't do it to the consistency that Bag Motion was doing it at.
Yeah.
And I think with Ant too, because even when you go back to those first 2 years with Pistons GT, when it was just when Ant and Bag Motion were the two guys there, Ant had the ball a lot in his hands. And I think that kind of fucked with it a little bit this year of like how much we saw Jomar like ISOing. When do you ever see players really ISO or something like that?
Yeah.
When they're playing with the Pistons. But even then, like when Ant had the ball, he just there was nothing there that made us like give a lot of hope. They had some swag at the beginning of the season. Like you remember when like they played the Celtics, like, we pick our archetypes out of a hat against these guys. Like they had a little bit of that trash talk that was building up. This series on stage was the one that we could have been like, fuck yeah, it's the same thing as last year. You're going to go through and make a run. They came out flat. Nobody could shoot. They took at least a game away. That's when Connor started talking to Dimes. From that point on, when those cameras were going on those Pistons players,
just wasn't.
And it wasn't Connor, and it was Jomar and Ant. There was one of our camera guys got a shot of Ant going into that final game, and it looks like he had just seen a fucking ghost.
Yeah.
He was just sitting there, no expression on his face, just staring directly. For me, as long as I've known him, and I feel like any player in that situation when you have no energy, that series is done.
Yeah.
You don't even have to load up and play the game like that. That shit it's cooked, it's done, let's move on. This makes it really concerning for me for 5s.
Me too. I'm very concerned.
Especially with Mona being in the lineup.
Very concerned. Yes.
I'm going to throw this out there.
Okay.
I would not be surprised if we see some sort of shifts, if maybe like they try to put somebody on a trade block.
Some trade rumors. Okay.
I mean, I have no insight what the fuck soever, but I'm going to be honest with you. If you just couldn't play solidified defense in 3s and how you just went out there, that communication, do you really think it's going to carry over better in 5s? So I don't know. I don't know, but if I'm putting my GM hat on, it just depends. Like, how quick do you want to bite the bullet? Like, how quick do you want to be able to snap back? Okay, we need to change now. Yeah. If things are held that bad, they are. And I genuinely wonder if those are conversations that are going to be had over the course of the bye week.
I think what we saw.
By the way, when does the trade window close?
Closes. I don't know when it closes, but I know that it opens right when the playoffs end. Mm-hmm. So I think it opens right when or it might still be open.
Yeah.
But I think it closes like somewhere midway through 5s.
It's just again, like I wouldn't want to.
We have Ad Wave next week.
So. Yeah, I wouldn't want to jump the gun too fast.
Yeah.
But it's again at the same time, like It was bad, and I think that if it's bad in threes, and I don't know if I'm weird, wacky saying this, if anybody's listening and wants to call me out on it, you're going to fives where the defense gets kicked up a lot with more voices added into the mix. That's going to be tough. Then you got to throw that Beast Move is going to be out there playing defense too with them. Then you got to factor in Mona's going to be the other guy out there playing defense too. So it's not just going to be a Connor Jomar thing, which they just showed they can't really do a whole lot of good in threes.
Yeah.
What's it going to be like in fives? I think that is definitely worth the actual concern of that defense being played. But one of the more shocking things that happened yesterday, one of probably the most disappointing seasons that we've ever seen from a championship caliber team.
I think I'll put this out there, and then we can move on to Knicks Gaming Rim Runners. I think we saw in the league Jomar's amazing progression from season 1, season 2, role player, season 3, season 4, kind of went from role player to bona fide starter, and then season 5, season 6 was his peak, where he went from starting player for Pacers Gaming. He was the best player on that team. Him, Vandy, and Wolf dominated 3v3 for about a month and a half. One of the best switch open runs we've ever seen. Still maybe the best run we've ever seen through a tournament. Goes to the Blazers, is easily their best player all season long. Wins them the Steel Open. Wills them into the playoffs in 5v5. Probably the best season he's ever had. He had an amazing season of Pro-Am with Tunnel Vision where they won the tournament while we were in Dallas. And that was the peak, man. We saw Jomar's amazing peak and progression. And I'm not saying he's over the hill by any means. But what I think we've seen this year in this 2K is that peak has kind of curved a bit. Yeah. Like we saw the peak and now that was the top.
To the mean.
That was the top. And I'm worried that he just kind of hit the top and sloped a little bit at the worst time for the Pistons. And now they're in. I agree with you. I don't want to put this all on Jomar. I don't think Connor was nearly as good this year on either end. And again, I think a lot of this still falls on Ant.
It's still weird because I think Connor was definitely the best player on Detroit.
Yes,
and I don't think he was even close.
No, I agree.
Because again, you have to remember at the beginning, when they were making their run through the slam, it's still low-key godlike in Connor at the 1 and 2. But in terms of for the money and for you to be able to progress forward in the tournament, Connor definitely had to have been better overall. That's the one guy, if you're having shooting struggles and Connor's shown us consistently he's one of the best shooters at his position, you gotta fucking hit some of those shots. And it's tough because I feel like as a collective, when we look at Detroit and when they were making game-changing plays and winning series, it was star-studded how they were doing it. They were forcing fucking turnovers. They're making big plays. Just didn't have that this year.
No. They did not have the same aura. All right, so RIP Pistons GT and RIP my Final Four because I picked the Pistons.
Fuck, this is our pick for Pistons GT is contenders. It might have been pretenders.
Yeah.
Fuck.
All right, on to our last series, and then we'll start previewing. Rim Runners sweep Knicks Gaming. I'm gonna say this as kindly as I can. I think that was the worst series of 2K I've ever seen Feast play. He could not get a stop. He could not hit a shot. And it got capped off with him in the deciding game 3 of the series, getting a 3 in the key where he just stood there. He just stood there.
That was weird because we've commentated enough
we thought his controller just connected.
So it didn't. We've commentated enough to know that
we're like Feast
when
Feast,
shit like that
Feast,
happens, because he didn't move the right stick. His guy was just
dribbling.
You didn't even dribble. He had the ball picked up and was just standing there. So immediately after 1 second went by and I saw him do nothing, I immediately whipped around and looked at the stage because my initial thought is that when something like that happens, I'm lagging, my controller disconnected. They're waving for the admins, but I just saw him just sitting there. And just nothing happened, and I'm like, how do I even explain that? Because the controller didn't die. There was no dispute about, I'm lagging, I'm disconnected, nothing like that. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm going back and looking at Feast over his career. I mean, this one stuck out a lot more than anything. It was crazy because he was shooting wide open shots the entire series. I think his first green was in game 3.
Yeah,
and we're like, oh my God, he agreed to shot because every single one was a miss. But overall, he played awful. I can't even remember what Radiant or what 6 performance, but That looked like one of those series where Stick was trying to do everything possible to try to keep their season alive, which is what I can respect about him because he always does that.
Yeah.
And while he was fighting and fighting and fighting, it's just never going to be enough when it's a 1 versus 3.
I have so now we can do the official in memoriam for Knicks gaming. Shout out to Ramirez, by the way. They played a great series. I'm very impressed with how they played yesterday. They played great. They really did. That was a tough Celtics series that they had to go up against. They properly took a game. They didn't get swept. They got themselves settled, and then they pull off a sweep against a 2K League team on stage. That's a big deal. I am, in the way that we were both very worried about Pistons GT in 5v5, I am now officially worried about Knicks gaming in 5v5
really?
as well. Yes. Here's why. I don't know if this team has enough offensive consistency to win. I think Malik is too inconsistent. I think Radiant at this stage in his career is too inconsistent. I think Feast shooting the ball is too inconsistent. I think Stick tries to do too much and plays hero ball too often. And we haven't even seen Stick play yet on this team. I think this Knicks gaming team is still going to make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they now have a more clear ceiling to me in that game mode than I had before. And I think versus the other teams in the East, that ceiling really scares me. Because what happens is that when you have a ceiling that's kind of visible like this, and you hit that ceiling, it's like finding a resistance zone when you're doing stocks. It's going to hit that zone and go, pew! It's going to ping right off and go way down. I am officially worried about this Knicks gaming team in that same way. And respectfully to Feast, man, he ain't a shooter, bro. Mm-hmm. He's not a shooter. And if I'm a team in the gritty-ass Eastern Conference where it is hard to get points, you want to know who I'm sagging off of to make sure that Radiant Elite don't get to the rim? I'm sagging off of Feast in the corner, and I'm telling him, hey, you're going to have to go 3 of 5 from 3 to beat me. And I don't think you can do it. I'm a little concerned.
I think in 5s he'll be able to.
I don't know. I don't, dude. He was missing open corner threes. He was missing flare up threes. Like, do you know what it is? Let me clarify. I think Feast is an incredibly high level player, and I think the Knicks are trying to win the 5v5 championship this year, and they have an amazingly talented roster. We have seen this year though that the margin for power forwards is this big. It is teeny, teeny, tiny. And if you have a Knicks gaming series versus what's another really good 5v5 team in the East this year? Let's say they're going up against 76ers GC, biggest series of the season. It's DT on the other side, and it's Feast on one side. Who do you think is going to be hitting the big-time shots to win that series? Do you think it's going to be DT, or do you think it's going to be Feast? Right now, I think it's the guys like DT. It's a guy like Cease, who I think they just have that extra offensive margin over Feast. And when you're trying to win a title and you're in the Eastern Conference where it is loaded, we have 8 teams in the East this year who are competing at the bare minimum for the 2 seed, let alone the other 3 that are in the conference who are going for the 5 seed. I mean, it is loaded this year. These margins are going to mean everything. And Stick as well. I think Stick plays hero ball way too much on the offensive side of the ball. He's still a lockdown, bro. Like, you got to know your role at sometimes. I'm a little worried about this Knicks gaming team.
See, I look at them. I think their 5 season is going to blow their 3 season out of the water.
They're still going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
bro. They're still going to be a top 3 seed. I'm talking about winning the title for them.
I think they're going to be one of the top teams. I think that they're going to have one of the league best defense.
Okay, I'll agree to that. I think their defense will be outstanding.
I think this is all I've been hearing from players is that they said the shooting in 3s is definitely different from 5s. But the one thing no one's been able to answer to me or riddle to me yet is 3s easier shooting or is 5 shooter like easier?
They haven't mentioned that.
No one said that. They've just said that contests don't go in as much in 5s as they did in 3s. That's the one thing that they said. So I think that'll be the big difference maker because, like, typically when you look over Feast in 5s over his career, I feel like he's been pretty consistent at times. Just kind of like depends on the situation.
He's an amazing center, but offense has always been kind of
well, because like even when he was on the run with the T-Wolves and he was a power forward, he was a phenomenal shooter during that. But obviously that's fucking season 2.
Well, you have to remember also he was not the primary big shooting 3s on the T-Wolves team. It was JoJo. JoJo was the one that was getting the flare-ups. JoJo was the one that was doing the pick and pops. Look, I don't want to put this all on Feast. He's still an amazing player and one of my favorite guys in the league. It's just, man, the league is just so goddamn good now, dude. It is so talented. Like, in these margins, these incredibly small things, like, I feel like we've been talking about the same issues that all these teams have had all year, waiting for a lot of them to get fixed. And then all of a sudden, that one issue is magnified so much because the other team is just exploiting it. over and over and over again.
The one thing I think with the Knicks,
Like
and again,
straight up, like he was being left open.
Yeah, I think the one thing with the Knicks, and again, it kind of goes into like the Knicks fashion talk, is that with them, their game management, I think, is going to be crucial in fives, which is a very common thing to say because it's the same shit for everybody. You need to be able to manage a game.
That's a good call.
They have historically been a team who like will give up big fucking leads, lose games in crazy. I think it was it season 2 against the Cavs in Orlando? They like blew a fucking crazy lead. They had the iconic all hail Trey turning around, flexing in the camera, Larry slapping him. Yeah. So I think that'll be one of the keys too to look at in the offensive side. But yeah, a weird season for the Knicks. I think the point that I brought up before, if they had the radiant stick and feast lineup, I think that maybe things look a little bit different for them. But inevitably, is the Knicks gaming way to always bow out in this type of fashion.
Well, we will see Knicks gaming again in 5v5. One other thing I want to put out there, I would not be surprised if both Stick and Feast get 5v5 DPOY
that'd be crazy
calls. Just saying. All right, let's get into our games for today. We don't spend too long on them because we're going to be watching the games in a couple of hours anyway. Lakers Nets coming up here. That'll be on stage. Kai versus Greens. We saw Kai versus Greens a lot last year. I feel like the Nets and the T-Wolves played every single time we had a tournament. I am very interested to see how Lakers Gaming shoot the basketball because that was obviously Kai and YoVC's great separators that they both have had outstanding shooting seasons. Crazy has not. So if this Lakers gaming team can shoot, I think they'll be fine. We saw a lot of teams have shooting issues yesterday. That has been the ultimate separator for the Lakers this year is their ability to hit big-time shots. Are you concerned about LA after seeing everybody yesterday?
Yeah, I think that LA and both the Magic are come out slow shooting starts.
Okay.
I just think it's a natural thing. Here's I think they're going to struggle early with the shooting. The question is, how long will it take for them to adapt? You don't want the shooting to get to you in this stage of the tournament where you end up losing a series and then you're able to bounce back and kind of figure out the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
Which I'd be shocked if it really takes that long and it bury them deep enough into a hole. I could see like the Lakers and Magic both dropping their game number ones and really bad shooting performances from everybody and then a big bounce back. I don't think that they're going to come out with that same level of dominance that we saw remotely and for them to just come like game one, dominate, fucking sweep the series. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there is going to be slow starts on both of them.
I see. I'm the other way. I think both of them are going to come out like their hair's on fire.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think them. Do you know what it is? Here, I'll put it this way. It is a weird mental thing. Okay. Yeah. If you're a team that plays yesterday, you're going on stage for the first time. You're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm a dog, I'm a demon. I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna fuck these kids up, right? That's your mentality. And then all of a sudden it's game 4. You're 3 of 9 from 3 for the series, and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't gonna happen. Lakers Gaming and Magic Gaming have the added advantage that they saw everybody shoot yesterday. So they have had a full extra day to game plan around a possibility of their shooting not going well. I think both of these teams, respect to the Nets and respect to the Heat, and we'll get to the Heat check series, I think both of these series are sweep notices.
Really?
I think the Lakers and Magic getting that first round bye is actually going to help them a lot more. Not because like I think they're going to come out and shoot the lights out from 3, but I think that they're going to be able to come up with game plans around maybe a lack of three-point shooting that the other teams just simply were not able to plan for yesterday. Not to mention that I simply just think that we saw all these teams play yesterday. None of them are as good as the Lakers and Magic. They just aren't. They're all good teams. They're fine teams. None of them come close to the ceiling that Lakers Gaming and Magic Gaming have shown us. Maybe T-Wolves Gaming at their absolute just crazy, I'm going to shoot everything and make everything best. They can get to that level, but nothing yesterday showed me that there is a team in the playoffs right now that comes close to those teams.
I felt like I was watching some Steel Open gameplay.
Dude, I mean, it was crazy. I really think that, Lakers Nets. I think the Nets played a great series yesterday against the Grizz. A brutal second round matchup for them. I think the Lakers take this 3-1.
I think. Well, actually, something you have to factor in too. The Nets played on the side stage, so this is their first time playing main stage. So I think this is why I think that the series. I don't think it's going to be a sweep because Lakers Gaming has not been able to get sweeps on a lot of teams this year.
I'll go 3-1.
I think that this could go game 4 or game 5. But we'll get a really nice indication of game 1 of how things go. Both teams come out fucking green, and you're like, okay, like we're in for a barn burner of a series. But I just don't think that's going to be the case, and it could be the case kind of for either side where it doesn't happen.
I think Lakers Gaming is going to open this one up big, and I think Kai is going to do what Kai does when he gets on stage. You know what that is?
Win.
He kicks your ass off the dribble. He makes you look silly. Dunk, 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 dunk. I think he's gonna make like his first 4 makes might just be dunks, just to get that takeover going, get comfortable on stage.
So you
get a
don't
little
get takeover
8-4
off of
lead.
dunks anymore.
Sorry, you're right. You're not taking takeover of dunks anymore.
That's like if he comes out dunking, I'm gonna
that.
be fucking concerned.
Dude,
Like, damn, what the fuck?
It's gonna be pick and roll. It's gonna be crazy with the dunk. Crazy with the dunk. Nah, I think the Lakers are gonna come out firing. I'm very excited to see them play. All right, second series, T-Wolves game against Dribble Gods. We're not going to disrespect the Dribble Gods like we did yesterday. However, a truly brutal second-round matchup for them in Minnesota. A team that is hot, a team that looks good, a team that has a real winning condition. I like the T-Wolves in this a lot.
Yeah, I think after what we saw from the T-Wolves yesterday against the Bucks, I think if they can establish that rhythm and that same groove that we saw, like they should be able to coast.
Yeah.
I don't think that the side stage. I don't think the players are in the same room.
No, they're not.
They're different. So I know that last year they were face to face.
Yeah.
But so that's where I think Dribble Gods playing up there, they get a big advantage.
I
think
agree.
it gives you more of a homely feel than kind of anything else. And
Yeah.
so I think for the T-Wolves though, they should be able to. I don't want to say coast in the series because again, I feel like that's pretty disrespectful after what we saw what Dribble Gods did to the Pistons yesterday. But if there isn't enough pressure on Kenny Zeus already. That 10 points per game performance that we saw yesterday in that series, you have to do that again. And the one thing with Kenny Zeus over the course of his 2K League career is consistency. He will have a really good series. Then the next series that they play, it'll be nothing like what we just saw.
You say how you think it's going to be easier for Dribble Gods. Do you know who I think being on the B stage is going to be great for? It's going to be great for Two-Talk, man. He's just going to be able to sit back there,
Not
put
have
up
to worry
his
about the
feet,
camera in his
no
face.
cameras, just remote. And he's just going to be like, all right, here's 5 of 5 from 3. Suck my dick. Like, he's going to be so good. Dude, every single series he plays, I'm more and more convinced that he is putting on one of the best rookie seasons we've ever had. I think he is going to dog people out in 5s.
I'm excited to see
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan, man. I really like... I just like his mental makeup. I like how he just doesn't really care. He can have an awful game, and then he'll come back in the next game and go 4 or 5 from 3.
So
he's so good.
Our semifinal in the upper bracket, we both have anticipated our prediction: Lakers versus T-Wolves.
Yeah, we both had it.
So we have the Kai with the Kai Ball.
The Kai Ball. All right, Magic Heat Check, the rematch, part 3. Series tied 1-1 against these two teams. The last time they played was an in-person matchup in Orlando that Heat Check Gaming won. However, since that loss, Magic Gaming has been probably the best team in the league since that moment. I think that this Magic Gaming team is going to have no problem shooting on stage. I'm going to put that out there right now. I just think that the way that they run their offense, they create almost too many open looks for them to have shooting problems. And I think that was one of the things we saw yesterday, is that we saw a lot of guys. We didn't see a lot of wide opens. We saw a lot of just opens. And I think it not being wide open, plus like maybe some sped up jumpers, plus the on-stage thing, I think that led to way more of the shooting problems.
Yeah.
But this Magic Gaming team, bro, they just create so much space. I don't know how they create so much space on such a small court.
Is that a dog?
I don't know. That was a weird sound. I don't know how they create so much space on such a small court. I think Magic Gaming take this series 3-1. I think the Magic, this version of the Magic, is probably the worst possible matchup for Heat Check Gaming. But if the Heat can get past the Magic here, bro, I think the Heat can make it to Saturday. If they can win this series, I think they're making it to the Final Four.
And then we see it's a dog.
Yeah, it is a dog.
We see it inside big, get all the way that
It'd be
deep.
amazing. It'd be crazy.
I mean, it'll be tough. I kind of agree. More so like when we're talking about the Lakers and like potential shooting struggles, right, with those guys being on stage. Like obviously we saw Kai a lot last year, so like we know on the stage, different game, but he'll probably be more used to the timing. I don't worry about Loki God like in the slightest.
Me neither.
Like I feel like that man just adjusts to any environment. You could put him on a 300 ping server, and I bet he figures out how to green within his first like 3 shots.
Yeah.
Same thing kind of with Unguardable. I think there's a lot of questions for potentially Jay Bullen because we even saw in the slam when they played the Lakers, he wasn't shooting a lot, and then when he did shoot, it just wasn't connecting. And I think if you're second guessing yourself in some remote situations, and that was the one thing I showed him a lot of love during the switch. I loved his individual adjustment to where in the slam he was scared to shoot. He was open and second guessing every move. The switch, it just seemed like he just had all this different level of confidence in the world to where he was taking a lot of those actual shots. I think for him, it's going to be getting that first green. Taking that first wide open, as simple as it sounds, getting that first green, getting the butterflies out of the way. But okay, cool. Like now we can actually play the game. So I have the Magic taking it. I don't think it'll be sweep because I don't think anything's gonna be a fucking sweep in this. Like the only sweep we saw yesterday
the Heat are
was
too good. I don't think the Heat will get swept.
There's just something about teams going up 2-0 and they just can't get the job done. And I don't know like whether to give credit to.
Well, it's desperation on the other side.
It's so strange.
Desperation is the most powerful thing in sports.
And
Always will be.
It has you playing out of character on defense. Maybe makes the rotation that you typically don't. But I think that the Magic will take it in 4.
I'm more excited for Jay Bullen on defense than I am on offense. His ability to navigate screens, to know when to go over, to know when to go under, to know when to push through. His IQ defensively is great against opposing guards. I think he's a fascinating matchup for Kai. I'm really excited for this series. I'm happy we got this one on stage. Then we get Gen G Tigers taking on Celtics crossover. I would say the matchup, this is a really interesting matchup because these two teams are a mirror image of each other.
Yeah.
You have Leche and Gallo, currently is probably the best 2 3-point shooting guards outside of Kai and Unguardable in the league. Actually, I wouldn't even include Unguardable in that. He hasn't been shooting the ball from 3 all that well this season. You got Leche and Gallo who really mirror each other. You got Tazo Lawrence who really mirror each other. And then you got Grizzy and Jolo who really mirror each other. I think this is going 5, no matter what. And this is going to be the series where we see, does Celtics crossover have the juice to make the Final Four? Because if they lose this series, to me, I have no confidence in them beating a good team for the entirety of this tournament. They have to beat a good team at some point this season. This is their chance. Beat Gen G, move on to round 2, go up against the Magic for a chance to get to the Final Four. Like this is the game that you man, the Celtics, you have been spending so long rebuilding this team. You get rid of FT, you draft Crizzy in the first round, you keep Tazo for 4 goddamn years for this series. This is the exact series that you've been building towards. Don't blow it. Gen G is probably, I don't want to say the easiest matchup. You've avoided the Lakers. You've avoided the Magic. You've avoided the red-hot T-Wolves gaming. And now you're going up against a Gen G team that almost got 3-0 swept by Knicks gaming yesterday. This is their chance. If they don't win this year, I'm out. If they don't win this year, I'm out in Celtics.
I don't think the Celtics will win. I think that I think it'll highlight more playing a team like Gen G, where if Tazo and Crizzy are missing shots, I think Gen G on the other end will punish them.
Yeah,
I know they had their shooting struggles in those first couple games against the Knicks yesterday,
matter.
But I think like if Lawrence is getting open shots and Jolo's getting open shots, they are going to hit those more than likely. I think on the other side of things, I think it's going to be crucial. Just watch every miss. I'm not even going to put Lecce in the conversation because he just seems automatic every single time he shoots. Watch every miss from Tazo and Crizzy tonight. If they miss, maybe they go perfect shooting. If they miss, keep track of if that turns into points on the other end.
That's a good call.
If they are able to capitalize on it.
Yeah,
I think that'll be the difference maker in this series for Gen G. Like, again, I'm not calling sweeps for any of these. I think Gen G will take it game 4. I don't think it's going to go game 5.
I think it goes game 5, and I think Gen G takes it. But I want to be wrong. Like, that's the thing. That's the most annoying part about the Celtics team, bro, is that I've wanted to be wrong about them all year. I want to be wrong. I want them to be amazing. And they just don't got the juice, man. They don't got the juice. Just like the Celtics last night, man. They just don't got the juice. All right, we're going to wrap it there. We did about 57 minutes here. We'll be back either tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on...
It depends how late we go on how
we didn't get out until 10:30
last night. We sat there and we're like, holy shit, how are we so far behind? Everything was flowing like smoothly.
Oh, last night was long, dude. What a night last night. But yeah, we'll have another pod at the end of every day. Maybe we'll have JT on if he's feeling better to hang out with us. But that's some virtual courtside. We'll see you guys tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch and YouTube for round 2 of the 3v3. Okay, dude, that was just
now we know if people get to the end or not.
See ya.